Hi, just a really quick introduction to this beautiful video that's coming up. We've edited together a sort of composite of some of the interviews that we did at the retreat in April, at the Carnivore retreat, with the speakers and the participants, some of them anyway. And there's some beautiful stories, and make sure you stay to the end for the testimonials about the retreat. It's really a lovely video. Now, this is really just to say that if you look in the video description, there'll be a link to a page where you can book for next year's retreat, May the 11th to the 15th, 2020. And we've got Sean Baker and Bobby Risto among the speakers. Go and see, all the details are on there. And there's also the opportunity to get access to all of the talks from last April. So anyway, enough of me. Enjoy this video. It's lovely.
Well, I was always the fat boy in school. I was the blimp. And I was teased from kindergarten on about my weight. And I remember being so self-conscious about it in high school. You know, none of the popular girls wanted to hang out with me because I was the fat guy.
So I was vegetarian for 1.5 years. Then I got into cooked vegan, and then shifted right into that after 6 months to the 100% raw. And then right about my 4th year, that's when my body was starting to break down, and my thyroid. That veganism totally damaged my thyroid, and I have been trying to heal it since.
Vegetarianism was important to me for a very, very long time. So I didn't really think anything of it, but I was getting some health problems looking back on it. I had candida, I had hypothyroidism. So my health was okay, but I was always struggling with kind of energy levels, but I just kind of assumed everybody, kind of had these things. And then the depression came quite severely. I'd never experienced anything like that before. And I just couldn't seem to, I felt like I just didn't have enough resilience, this was the word that kept on coming to me.
So I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, probably at the age of about 37, 40, had problems with joints for many years. And a lot of emotional issues, a lot of emotional eating, weight problems for a long time, but inflammation was the big thing for me. It just got worse and worse.
I've got secondary progressive MS. I got MS about 25 years ago, was diagnosed, and 3 years ago I was diagnosed as progressive. For a long time it was very stable, but having become progressive, I started to look for answers.
Well, I was always a very sickly child. I was ill all the time, had a lot of antibiotics, and I had a lot of gut health issues because of that. And I made the decision in my teens to become a vegetarian. I was vegetarian for 27 years. I thought that was the best thing for my health. I did eat eggs, and I ate the low-fat dairy because that was what we were told to do, healthy grains and all the rest of the paradigm. And I didn't feel really ill, but I was always having gut issues. I was always having indigestion problems and really chronic pain. I had lots of investigative procedures. I had barium meal exploration, I had an endoscopy, I had a laparoscopy, and nobody could ever find anything wrong.
Was I having any health problems? Yeah, trouble contrling weight. Oh, yeah, higher blood sugar. Pre-diabetic blood sugar, not anything that the allopath doctors are worried about. They just, when it gets so high, we'll put you on a drug.
Well, 25 years ago, I had about a quarter of an hour appointment that told me after an MRI scan that I had MS, and he kept looking at his watch, and that was it, basically. And I was on my own because I wasn't expecting a sort of news like that. And I said, "Oh, what can be done about this?" And he said, "Nothing." And that was it.
My pain levels were awful. I was put on, year before last, I think, I was put on methotrexate. They increased the levels of methotrexate. I was put on hydroxychloroquine, sertraline for depression, nortriptyline for neurological pain, and then tramadol for pain and, you know, other pain meds. Talking to the rheumatologist about diet and saying I'm doing everything I can to help myself by changing my diet, and his reaction was that there is no scientific evidence that diet makes any difference to arthritis or rheumatoid arthritis. So it left me feeling really deflated and almost hopeless. I really felt that there was no hope. The GPs or the rheumatologists, just everything is to do with, you know, medication, and then it's lose weight, it's easy on your joints. I know that, I understand that, but you keep giving me these medications and I keep putting on weight.
Sometimes taking the medication is in the way of their recovery. They just do not recognize this.
This isn't healthcare. At best, it's sickness management, and you know, and that's a positive thing to think, because it's not even that. They're not even managing sickness well. We're getting sicker. This is the first generation, they're saying, that's going to not outlive its parents?
About 7 years ago, I had an epiphany. And the epiphany was that my problems and the problems of my parents and the problems of so many people that I love were all caused by sugar. And the way that happened is that refined sugar is 50% fructose. And it's the fructose that is a slow-acting liver poison. It turns out that about 25 to 30% of humans are protected from fructose genetically. They somehow are resistant to the poison, but 70% of people, if they continuously eat refined sugar at high levels, will develop fatty liver and insulin resistance. And this will lead inevitably to prediabetes and diabetes. And of course, diabetes leads to heart disease, kidney failure, blindness, loss of limbs, and so many other consequences. And one of the big ones is cancer. And diabetes has been linked to 10 cancers very strongly, and is probably involved in more than that. So my whole mission in life now is to try to warn people. We have a terrible epidemic going on all over the world, and that epidemic is sometimes called the metabolic syndrome, and that basically just means you're insulin resistant. The markers of the metabolic syndrome are high blood pressure, an increased waist circumference, the things that you find with diabetes, high blood sugar and abnormal lipid levels, high triglycerides, low HDL, and all those things are also part of diabetes. So it's really just one big syndrome, and it's all caused by fructose.
We're eating way too much sugar, and it's an addiction. It's hard to stop. And to know that vegetables also break down to simple sugars. They're polysaccharides. Vegetables are polysaccharides, many sugars, all bound together. But when the body breaks it down on the stomach and it goes into the bloodstream, it's the same as taking table sugar, monosaccharides. To know that the saccharides are what's hurting us.
You ate carbohydrate, and carbohydrates just get converted to sugar. Starch is just 98% glucose molecules. And the body just simply breaks those bonds into individual glucose molecules. So when you eat bread, you're basically just eating sugar. Sugar is a drug that's as addictive as cocaine or heroin for many people. You know, it goes on and on. We never had a meal without dessert except for breakfast. And breakfast often was a dessert. You know, Fruit Loops or sugar frosted flakes, oatmeal with tons of sugar on it, whatever it might be, and a glass of orange juice, which, of course, orange juice and apple juice have just as much sugar as Coca-Cola does. So, when I went to medical school, they told me that I had to eat less and move more, and that's why I was fat. And I had no idea, even after completing medical school, that it was a hormonal problem. I was resistant to insulin. Because I'm insulin resistant, I had very high insulin levels. Insulin is the fat storage hormone. Fat cannot come out of fat cells to be burned if the insulin levels in the blood are high. That's one of the things insulin does, is it traps fat into fat cells. It's designed to store fat. So I was literally starving. Even though I weighed 300 pounds, I was starving to death. Unfortunately, I did very well in medical school, and I had 26 years of medical practice. In all that time, I was never really able to help other people with the metabolic syndrome. I told them they have to eat less and move more. And I told them to eat low fat, and I told them to eat more spaghetti. So I feel really guilty about that now, because I now know that what they had was insulin resistance, and the only way to fight insulin resistance is to decrease carbohydrate intake, increase fat intake, and do intermittent fasting.
So actually we did start with easy patients, so to say easy patient, type 2 diabetes patient, obesity, hypertension. And then we moved toward more serious cases. Once they start sticking to the diet, then they can normalize excess body weight, they can normalize hypertension. There is a possibility to taper down medicines. It is depending on the adherence level of the patient. So actually everybody with type 2 diabetes will recover once he is adhering to the diet. Type 2 diabetes is a very easily curable disease.
We now have studies like the Virtus study at University of Indiana that show that you can totally reverse diabetes in 80% of your patients in 1 year and save $1,200 a month on medication, because insulin and these new diabetes drugs are expensive.
Migraine, Crohn's disease, different autoimmune diseases like ITP. CIPD needs a longer time to recover. Many more.
And pretty much immediately, I had this very strong sense that I had been really missing something nutritional. But I realized in that moment that there was something very, very simple that I was missing, and it was to do with my diet.
Yeah, it was a big decision. It was a big decision to put meat back in. I mean, it's a long time, 27 years, and it was for what I thought were health reasons. It was also for what I thought were environmental reasons, for animal welfare reasons, all of those things, you know, really important to me. And it was not a decision that I made lightly, but at the end of the day, I thought this is about my health, and that has to come first.
The feeling, it got me the feeling that, gosh, we can just go with our gut. We should be going with our gut instinct on everything. And the more that we're pulled apart by experts in every field, we lose our power. And to understand that my gut instinct all those years have been telling me I don't like vegetables, but we have to eat them because everybody knows. But when you ask who knows, well, how do you know? I don't know. I mean, somebody else told me that they're actually, he just went through a lecture today, the doctor, showing you all of the things that are in these phthalates and oxalates, and I mean, he named about 24, and he went into them, things that the plants grow in themselves to make them not tasteful. That's why certain animals won't eat these things that we're eating as plants, because they can sense it. They know it's already been inbred into them, and we don't know. We're just eating them away, and some of these things are very toxic.
It's very difficult. In fact, I had this conversation with a friend of mine's husband just literally about a week ago. We were at a birthday party, and we had a long debate because he could not get his head around it, and it was all the typical, we need fiber, you know, we need this, we need that. You can't survive like that. And I said, well, I'm not dead. I'm really healthy.
And then I discovered Phil Escott, followed some of his videos, and then booked a consultation with him. And that really helped me because he gave me the confidence just to say, right, let's just do it. It's simple, there's nothing complicated about it, just do it.
I thought it doesn't matter what I think about vegetables or not, I have to do something. And once I made the decision to do it, I didn't miss the vegetables, I didn't care, and I haven't missed them since.
And I thought, well, I'll try it and see what happens. So I put some chicken and some fish into my diet, and overnight my energy was so much better. It was incredible.
And after probably about 8 weeks, it must be about 8 weeks on keto, my pain levels had reduced incredibly, but still not to a point where I felt that, you know, it was right. I wasn't needing to walk with a walking stick anymore. I could go up and down the stairs without going, you know, one step at a time. Made a huge difference.
And so I ate almost nothing but sardines for a week, and it was like an antidepressant. I actually felt, it was an extraordinary feeling. I'd love to know what actually was going on in the brain, because I almost felt like this membrane was starting to grow, in my head, in my brain. There was something about it. My concentration improved, my mood started to stabilize, and I felt this resilience. I felt like, oh, I can deal with this. Like something much more stable and secure and, you know, and mountain-like, you know. It's like you just start to feel that, that you can endure, you know.
You know, he said, well, the one thing I notice is you're not as jumpy, not as, you know, irritable, like quick to lose my temper, much more calm, don't get bothered by things as much as I used to. And I haven't really had any anxiety.
So already one of the benefits I've noticed is sleep. My sleep has improved. My skin has improved. My energy levels have improved. Sleep was a massive issue for me. I've been struggling with sleep issues for a long time, and probably a lot of that had to do with pain, but I think it was more than that. And just generally healthier overall. Emotionally, I'm more stable, and that I found really interesting, because I didn't understand that, you know, eating right can affect your emotions. It's made a huge difference, which I've been able to reduce my antidepressants by half.
Yeah, it is more natural. Yeah, and it definitely, I feel much more grounded.
And so I got rid of the tiredness as well. You know, I got rid of because I was eating too much by that time. So I do believe when you start this diet, you need to eat a lot to help the body heal. You've got to really put that nourishment in you, give it enough that it needs to really heal. And I think at about that point, my body healed so much, it didn't need as much nutrition. So now I need a little less. So once I reduced it down a little bit, the tiredness went away.
And in the first 6 months, I got a noticeable benefits. I quite quickly got day-long energy, which I didn't have before. I used to have to rest in the afternoons, and fatigue is a common problem with multiple sclerosis, but now I've got day-long energy. Obviously that's good, and I sleep really well. I wish I'd known about eating meat and organ meats and fat much earlier, and I think that would have made a huge difference if I'd known about it, but of course there wasn't the internet 25 years ago.
And this is very key, that people who are insulin resistant, and which is probably 60% or more of people in the United States, that they need to limit their protein as well as their carbohydrate, because protein causes the release of 50 to 100% as much insulin as carbohydrate does, and the only way you're going to lose weight is if you can get the insulin levels down.
Yes, so this is an animal meat fat-based diet, and the emphasis on the fat instead of the meat. That's why the diet is a ketogenic diet actually, because you have to change the metabolism as a whole. So instead of remaining on a carbohydrate-based metabolism, you have to switch toward a fat-based metabolism, because being in ketosis and maintaining ketosis is associated with many benefits. Because ketosis and fat-based metabolism is a more energy-efficient way of operating.
There was like an emotional valve that was released, which kind of allowed me to be a healthier person inside, and like the better habits started to follow. And then people started to see like a big change. So I wasn't like a really flabby, obese Jay anymore. I got in better shape and more toned and more muscular. And then people ask, oh, what are you doing?
It's just amazing how much better I felt. And I would say probably the top two things that I noticed the most were my knees, because I have really bad knees. And I noticed a huge improvement. And, besides the weight, of course, I lost 12 kilograms total. But also my mood.
And people look at me and they say, you look fantastic. What are you doing? I've lost just over a stone in weight. Yeah, and just a nicer person, I think, in general. Honestly, I don't think I'll ever look back. It's been the best thing I could ever have done for myself.
And this diet was a godsend. After a month, I weaned myself off of all those supplements, and everything's been normal since. And I cannot believe that that has happened. So that truly told me that this is the diet for me.
And now that I'm a carnivore, I feel so much more involved in life and in the conversation around life. And I actually feel more ethical in a way. It's a strange thing. Like I feel that and it's humbling, and you kind of accept your place in the universe more. And so there's something that's happened where I feel more part of, I was going to say the circle of life, which sounds so cliche, but more part of the circle of life than I did as a vegetarian. And that really surprised me. I never expected that to happen. It's like an act of self-love, It's like accepting that you have every right to not just survive, but to thrive, and everyone has that right. Everyone has that right.
I just feel that it's actually almost a no-brainer. The way that I live is easy. It's really super nutritious. I'm getting all the things that I need in my diet. I only eat twice a day. So there's no waste, I'm not overeating. I don't need to eat any more than twice a day because the food is very filling, because obviously it's meat and fat. So I feel that, people that are buying snacks all the time and having this and having that, it's so unnecessary. We don't need to live like that, and yet that's what the majority of people do. And health-wise, I feel I have lots of energy. I feel great. I really do feel good.
The proof of the pudding is in the eating. There are so many people and so many testimonials out there of people who have been doing this, who have been healed, people who've been carnivore for 10 years that don't have any issues, who are healthier than they've ever been in their lives. So I'm very excited about the journey going forward, very excited.
Yes, it's a well-kept secret.
It feels like this sort of underground club right now, How it's going to break through, I find it really shocking when I talk to people who are working with this diet, doctors who are working with this diet, scientists who are working with this diet and having extraordinary results with their patients who can't get their papers published. I find that just absolutely shocking.
Our aim is that this method should be known for those who are looking for such an approach. Actually, we do have quite difficulties when it comes to publishing these results. So mainstream medical journals do not accept this approach, and it is impossible to publish, because this is a disease that is regarded to be incurable. And if you say that it is curable, you are going against something like an established knowledge.
In other words, I only ate vegetables because I thought that there was some requirement for them, that they were necessary for health. When in fact, it's quite the opposite if you look at the science. And that science is obviously hard to come by because there's too much vested interest. Big agriculture, big pharma, big business, they all, at the top of the pyramid, they're all those, the people that control those companies all sit on each other's board of directors. So they all have the same goal, to sell more of their product.
There are two elephants in the room as far as I'm concerned when it comes to helping people lose weight, helping people reverse their diabetes. The first elephant in the room is they usually addicted to sugar, as I was addicted to sugar. The other elephant in the room is stress, depression, and no goal in life. Okay. So it's really hard to motivate yourself to avoid the carbohydrates, to avoid the sweets, okay, to rationalize yourself if you're stressed and miserable and you don't have anything that you're passionate about. So I think people need to find something that they're totally passionate about. So many people are just have no clue what they want to do, and they sit in front of the television and watch Netflix. And to me, that's a recipe for depression and a recipe for obesity and not being able to control your diet.
And so here I am, and then once we, found out about this whole carnivore retreat, when I heard that, I was like, I've got to be there. So that's why I'm here.
I wanted to come speak with like-minded people, and I wanted to not feel like a freak for a weekend and not have to hide the way I prefer to eat and live. And I just wanted to feel very, very at home and comfortable for 3 days. When you sort of live in a world, or at least like where I'm like the expert within like my family and my friends, and you come here and you see, there's like just having a side conversation. I was like, well, I didn't know that, I didn't know that, or I never really understood the light cycle, but I said, I'm going to be going to this conference in a couple of months and I'll get some details, and like, lo and behold, I did. And now I realize I've got a lot more to learn and apply, and sort of reinforces as well why I try to do what I do most of the time. It's sort of like, okay, I really need to stick with it, and I don't know, for some reason, just seeing everyone in the sunshine just made me really happy, because that was just really, I could just tell everyone was like, okay, we're gonna, even without using the term recharge, you could sort of see everyone sort of like a bunch of iguanas, but just sort of sunning themselves like, oh, this is really nice. So this is like a new family, I guess. So, or I don't guess, it definitely is. And so it's nice. It's nice. But I'm also doing the right thing because I got to come here and see people like changed, like their health is getting better. And if it's not getting better as fast as they want to, there's at least hope in their eyes, which is I don't see many times back home. I'll see I'm sick, and it's just, there's no concept of really healing. It's just modulating the downward slope. And here I get the sense that there's things actually possible with the integration of all the tools that we're all developing and learning. So, and I can do it. And that's like a wonderful feeling to be able to do new things. And it's made my world like a lot more hopeful. So
that's helped a lot, because what's the traditional approach? Like, if you want to make a change in your life, who do you go to? You go to a therapist or a doctor, and do they really help you? I mean, you have 10, 15 minutes with a doctor, and what do you accomplish? Nothing. With this group, the support system and the access to information is far greater. So I never really had any reservations, because you just knew you had somebody to ask if there was a question. There was a lot of material, and there was a lot of people who've been through what you're going through. So it made it that much simpler.
Yeah, the more people we have speaking about it, the more we have to share and learn from each other. So yeah, because we each have something different that's happened. So, you know, one person isn't the same, and what we can share, then pass on to the next person. And then if people are struggling, then yeah, we help them, give them what advice we know from our own experiences. And so that's why it's so important we have that community of different people. So if we have more, and we see all the time, there's more and more faces that are coming up newer and newer, and they bring something new to the table every time.
I help anyone who comes along as much as I can. So helping other people helps me, you know, stick to what I'm doing. So that it helps me more than it helps the people I'm helping, I think, sometimes.
That helps a lot because you know you're not the first person, you're not alone. And this conference these talks today were phenomenal, really.
It's a fund of information, and of course the lectures have been terrific.
It's a movement around the world in different names, but the people are waking up, and the people are taking back their power. That's the whole point of this. It's taking back our power. We're living in super times. We never thought this would actually happen this fast.
Because it's an incredible way of life as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, and just, you've got nothing to lose. Try it.
Yeah,
but I am.
so good too.
I am. I'm trying really hard not to be evangelical about it with people because it's so easy. I mean, it's like, it's made such a difference to my life. How can I not be excited about it?
Great. Thank you so much. That was brilliant.
No, pleasure, pleasure.
Excellent.
Hope that answered all your questions.
Yes, it did.
Good.
We're done. Yeah. It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
everybody.
It's a wrap. That was great.
Good.
Very cool.
I could go on and on.
I lost my